Twitch is currently on fire right now with a bunch of massive advertisers pulling out, creators reporting that the revenue has dropped by 80%, and even potential congressional hearings on the subject in the future. A lot of the top streamers are at each other's throats right now as well, trying to play the blame game, saying, what really caused the boycott? Was it this guy? Was it this guy? And right now, the people blaming each other really are Hasan and Asmongold. Obviously, Asmongold has a more right-leaning perspective these days. He's more on that side, at least more than Hasan. And Hasan is obviously very far left, so they're going to be at each other's throats a lot. But in particular, they are really going at each other right now.
I just want you to understand, by the way, when Asmongold is making threats like this is the result, okay? When you partner up with cynical fucking assholes who just simply want to see the fucking world burn, and they force platforms who are terrified of offending anyone, okay? Even if their purpose is utterly and so clearly to troll, okay? Platforms that turn around and capitulate and cave against that sort of thing are gonna hurt other content creators, you know?
Hasan clearly is like one of the biggest proponents of this. I would say he is the biggest proponent to a lot of the contention around the, you know, quote, adpocalypse. He's the main reason why this is, like 90% of the examples that are being used are him. Like, or maybe not 90, it might be 80, 70%, but it's like the majority of all examples on the entire platform are all Hasan. So yeah, very clearly, this is the reason why it's happening. Now, you can say that it's unfair, but that's fine. That's okay. But you can't say it's not happening or that's not the reason.
It's pretty amusing watching these guys go at each other, these two monolithic streamers, and they're kind of acting like school children. They're like, no, it was him. It was him. I swear it was him. It wasn't me. You think little old me could do something like this? I've just been here sitting on the playground, messing around with the wood chips, wearing my propeller hat, sucking on my massive lollipop. I could not have done this. The adpocalypse overall has been a very messy and convoluted situation to a lot of people on the outside who are just seeing it, being like, why the fuck is Twitch falling off right now? And so the natural question of anyone who has a basic understanding of what Twitch is what is killing Twitch? Is it the Cockroach King? Is it Hasan? Could it have been the Clintons? Was it the Bogendorfs? Was it the Bilderbergs? Was this all their plan from the start? And how does this fit into our grand narrative about the world? Is this why Hasan said what he said about 9/11?
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it. I'm saying it.
We're there to partner with them. We're not there doing our own thing. We're there partnering and training.
In a video
and
game.
equipping.
Well, a little bit of a spoiler alert here, in case any of you are out of the loop. It's Hasan. Hasan is the reason for the adpocalypse. Well, mostly Hasan. It's more like Hasan, all of his little cohorts, his collaborative streamers, his peers, and the significant amount of Hasan Piker meat riders that work at Twitch, including the CEO, Dan Clancy. About a month ago, I made a video going into detail about all the fun antics Hasan has been up to, but for those of you who want the SparkNotes version, Hasan has called non-Zionist Jewish people inbred, as well as saying that the riots on October 7th didn't happen, but if they did, it doesn't really matter because whatever.
What did Hezbollah do? Bro, what did Hamas do? What are you talking about? Like, there is one instance in captivity that we have actually gotten verifiable evidence on. Beyond that, the systematized mass that Hamas dealt on October 7, not a single bit of that has been verified. And people still run with it over and over and over again. Meanwhile, we know Israel has done it.
Let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel had a right.
How do you dismiss accounts of kerosene and burning, but not dismiss sexual violence? What do you mean? Because one, there is no evidence whatsoever for one. It is completely and utterly made up. But there is a likelihood for the other, and also evidence as far as firsthand testimony from a hostage. The fuck?
He's also openly endorsed multiple terrorist organizations, which I'm not gonna lie is pretty funny. I think it is funny. The problem is that he actually likes them and wants them to kill people. He literally endorsed an organization whose motto is death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews. Terrorist witch doctor over here. There are too many clips to count of Hasan being crazy, but you get the idea. He's not even just a terrorist sympathizer, he's a terrorist supporter, and I can see why people would think that he is, pushing a lot of crazy shit, because frankly, I think that, and we all know it. If you want want more detail, you can feel free to check out my video on him, or there's also a website that's been created called danclancysucks.com that goes over it all. But Hassan's craziness is not the only thing going on. A few months ago at TwitchCon, in front of a crowd of people, a panel of Hassan meat riders made an Arab Jew tier list where Arab was at the top and Sabra, which is a kosher dip that's very popular among Jewish people in Israel, was at the bottom. Obviously, you know, implying that Jews in Israel are lesser than Arabs. H3H3, a well-known YouTube rabbi and comedian, also is a very outspoken Jewish anti-Zionist guy, and he was labeled at the very bottom of this graph with people on the panel suggesting that they need a lower tier for Zionists.
Say that's based.
We need to put it in Love Sabra.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah,
people are in there derogatory, but he's in there just like neutral.
Yeah, Jinxie loves Sabra, not derogatory.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Mike.
He's like, no, I really fuck with Sabra. I'm not
You
gonna
love yeah.
Yeah. That's why we put you on the Sabra category. Sabra's not hummus.
Now, this was an official Twitch event that was fully cleared and endorsed by Twitch and its staff. And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here on the politics because honestly, I could give less of a fuck about the Israel-Palestine conflict. I just think that, you know, war bad or whatever. Hot take, I guess. I don't like to see people dying. I don't like cheering on people dying. But what I will say is that whatever side of the spectrum you're on, this looks really bad. This looks really bad to advertisers. It looks bad to normal people. Anybody who isn't politically brain rotted to a crazy extent sees this and is like, I want nothing to do with these guys. And these panels are always pre-screened beforehand, and this was a sponsored panel from companies like Chevron, Capcom, and Samsung, some very, very, very big companies that obviously are not going to feel comfortable being around this kind of thing. And around this same exact time, Sneeko and Fresh and Fit, who I would say are some of the most prolific, actually hateful content creators, and I don't say that lightly, you know, you guys know, I think a lot of shit is funny, but goes a little far maybe when it's like Sneeko arguing in favor of getting rid of the age of consent. That's probably bad. But these guys were unbanned on Twitch. Keep in mind, no other notorious streamers were unbanned, only these two. So if it wasn't already obvious, Twitch has openly endorsed Hassan and his friends. Everyone in the Hassan orbit, like Rogan and Denims, have been boosted. They've been put on Twitch's front page, and they receive a crazy amount of favoritism and astroturfing from Twitch themselves. Hassan, meanwhile, is an untouchable figurehead that Twitch will never punish, no matter how crazy he acts. He is their golden boy and a core representative of the values of the people working there. I mean, the CEO, Dan Clancy, has hung out with Hassan several times. He's done a bunch of events with him, and he also openly talked about how he loves Hassan's bluntness, which I guess is one way of putting it. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is when our story really begins, because we have to introduce another rabbi known as Dan Saltman. He's a rabbi, he's a Rust player, he's a landlord, he's the owner of Redact.dev, and he saw all of this going down and he decided to investigate what was really happening on Twitch. Now, it needs to be noted here that Dan obviously has a bit of a bias against Hassan because Dan is friends with Destiny, and Destiny hates Hassan for reasons even outside of his politics. It's just like there is a personal beef going on there. But Dan around this time created a website called danclancysucks.com way before this controversy started originally, to just show Twitch's double standard when it came to the leeway they allowed Hassan and all the shit they allowed him to get away with, and then the shit they didn't allow anyone else to get away with. Hassan, for some reason, is considered a protected class on Twitch above all others. He will never be banned despite obviously breaking the TOS time and time again. Now, Twitch's CEO, Dan Clancy, who I'll now refer to as Clancy to avoid any confusion, had also been under fire for months before by Dan, and Dan wanted him to step down as CEO. He thought he was a horrible CEO, and this isn't just a thing that Dan has been saying. Keep in mind, a lot of people have talked about how bad of a CEO Dan Clancy is. Twitch's prior CEO was somebody who didn't even understand streaming as a concept. He didn't really get it. He didn't really care about it. Dan Clancy does get streaming as a concept, but maybe too much. There's been a lot of reports that he's never even in the office, that he's never even attending to the day-to-day operations. Instead, he's constantly flying out of town to hang out with various streamers and go to their streamer events and parties. And while it's important to connect with these streamers on the ground level, at the same time you are the CEO of a company, you need to be back at, you know, base camp handling operations. But the next bombshell that Dan Saltman, the rabbi, managed to drop on Dan Clancy, the CEO, would really change the game. Over a year ago, specifically on the Global Day of Jihad, Twitch secretly placed a ban on the entire country of Israel without saying anything. If you were a citizen of Israel and tried signing up, you would get a vague error message and just nothing else. This was never put into place for any other country. Now, obviously, there's a lot of questions about why they did this. Did they do it because there was an active war going on and they didn't want people to be streaming combat footage, which would be fair? Well, that does not seem to be the case, because in Ukraine, Russia, Yemen, Rwanda, and the Congo, a bunch of places where a lot of conflicts have happened over the past while, Twitch did literally zero banning. They did not ban anyone from posting. And it was actually confirmed with 100% certainty that Twitch had in fact banned all new email signups from Israel. So this stuff started getting really big on Twitter. All of the Jewish organizations were posting about it, and as a result, Dan Clancy, the CEO himself, would initially respond after the massive backlash. We wanted to address some concerns we've seen about whether we're preventing Twitch account signups in some regions. When signing up for a Twitch account, you can select an account verification method, email email or phone for added protection. Following the October 7th, 2023 attacks, we temporarily disabled signups with email verification in Israel and Palestine. We did this to prevent uploads of graphic material related to the attack and to protect the safety of users. Signups were not disabled, and we continued to see signups from both regions. Users could choose to sign up with phone verification, but we've learned that inadvertently, we did not re-enable email verification signups for either region. We deeply regret this unacceptable miss and the confusion it has caused. We fixed the issue, meaning all affected users can sign up with email verification. We've also heard concerns about whether our community guidelines apply to all content on our service. We continue to enforce our rules as consistently as possible and are actively reviewing content and taking enforcement action where needed. Now, the problem with this is that this is a lie. Quite literally a lie. Bold-faced lie. Even the community note under the tweet is calling the statement a lie, okay? And I find community notes cringe. They're pretty Reddit sometimes, but this one is true, okay? This whole statement is a lie. Both email and phone signups were disabled. While this was happening, the most popular political streamer on their platform was cheering on, spreading terrorist propaganda and apologetics on stream. And all of that is 1000% true. And not only that, but Hasan has covered plenty of war footage and gotten away with it on stream, which, to be clear, I think he should be able to. But the idea that they're banning these countries from email signups so that they can prevent war footage from being released on Twitch is ridiculous, because there's people watching war footage on Twitch right now. And this is really what lit the fuse and got Dan to go into full crusade mode against Twitch, demanding that their CEO, Dan Clancy, step down, demanding that Hasan be banned, and demanding that their trust and safety team be entirely restructured. He would start doing live streams compiling everything he had found, all the crazy moments from Hasan, all of the misconduct from Twitch. He was bringing it all out. It's kind of insane the amount of work that one guy was able to get done just by tweeting and getting the word out. So people would start sending him info to further the investigation, and some of the stuff that came out is pretty insane, I'm not gonna lie. It is pretty nuts. For instance, Twitch's director of trust and safety was found to have been fired for her previous job for anti-Semitism allegations. These posts were apparently so severe that their place of work was called out in front of the British Parliament and requested to be investigated. Keep in mind, this is the same exact person that was in charge of banning, appeals, and user reports at Twitch. And all these user reports were apparently going to Egypt, which has a 95% unfavorable view of Jews over there. When the people at your live panels, the people you unban, the people on your staff and trust and safety team, the people you endorse, the people you do events with, and those who represent your entire company as a figurehead are all people who are on record giving sympathy to terrorists, and you're complicit in banning an entire country that makes up 75% of the global population of that one ethnicity, being Jews, which a lot of your associates have been ranting about how much they hate that ethnicity, I think it's not really surprising that a lot of people are calling Twitch anti-Semitic, right? Whether or not it's an intentional thing, which it rarely is, there's rarely some kind of global conspiracy about these things, right? Whether it's an intentional thing or not, it seems like something really bad is going on at Twitch. And Dan Saltman, the certified rabbi himself, is a coder, a programmer, so he would make websites like twitchorterrorist.com, comparing quotes from Twitch streamers to quotes from actual terrorists to see if people could guess them. Now, over the next few days, massive accounts on Twitter like Stop Anti-Semitism would tweet out calling for Dan Clancy to resign from Twitch. And also, the ADL would swoop in, and that would lead to Frogan and Denims getting banned for 30 days for the TwitchCon Sabra incident. Keep in mind, Frogan had recently been under fire for saying that all American soldiers deserve PTSD, as well as trying to get her friends to create a 9/11 cake, which, I mean, that one's kind of funny, you know, in a vacuum. But none of these things got her banned at all. The only thing that they banned her for was this panel. And Frogan obviously refused to apologize after this ban. 30-day ban for saying people like bottom of the barrel hummus, but other people get 2 weeks for advocating for the genocide of Palestinians? Got it. But this did not stop with the ADL. Oh no, we're just getting started. Somehow, Dan's crusade would get Congressman Richie Torres to write to Twitch and Amazon about how Hasan sucks and is evil. If that is not proof that Hasan is the reason that Twitch is burning right now, I don't know what is. A congressional letter has been sent to the leadership of both Amazon and Twitch to sound the alarm about the amplification of anti-Semitism on Twitch. Hasan Piker, who has described Orthodox Jews as inbred and a Jewish man as a bloodthirsty pig, is the anti-Semitic voice of a systematically anti-Semitic platform led by Dan Clancy. The time has come to hold Hasan Piker and Dan Clancy accountable. And the dude did not stop with that letter either. He kept firing off tweets roasting the shit out of Hasan and trying to spread the message to as many people as possible. This is a United States congressman. This guy is a fucking politician, and he's tweeting about Hasan Piker. What is going on? And coincidentally, around the same time, Hasan would go on to wipe a lot of videos from his channel from the past 2 months. But I'm sure it was just to declutter his homepage. It wasn't for any nefarious reason to hide anything. That couldn't be the case. The backlash against Twitch and Hasan has been extremely severe, but that didn't stop other streamers from trying to sweep for him and even insinuate that they had some secret story about Dan Saltman, the rabbi behind the scenes, being weird to his wife or something. Some like random accusation that has no proof whatsoever.
Have you seen that Destiny's friend Dan is being weird about harassing Hasan? Bro, so weird of him. Don't, you know, it's...
Bruh, so
I don't like
weird
the way
of
he
him.
treats his wife either, bro. I got stories about everybody. Listen to me when I say this.
Oh, She got a story about how Dan treats his wife, apparently. Apparently? Huh.
I
Interesting.
don't like any of these men. These men, the way they talk about the women in their lives and like, why don't women like me?
And H3H3 also threw his hat in the ring and officially burnt his bridge with his former co-host Hassan, calling him out on stream and making a follow-up video on YouTube called I Won't Let Hassan Piker Lie About Me to his audience. H3 and Hassan have such a detailed history and relationship. They're kind of like star-crossed lovers who could have their own separate video purely because of how nuts their drama has been. I've done a few in the past, obviously, but a lot has happened since then. But I think what's important to keep in mind here is that Ethan has said several times that he is not a Zionist or a supporter of Israel. He just doesn't want the citizens of Israel to get glassed off the face of the earth, which I think is a relatively fair thing to say. But this apparently was too much of an extreme take for Hassan. This was extremist rhetoric, so that basically led their relationship to crumble and die and burn and die and burn and get to the point where it is today. Hassan would also continue crying on Twitter about Ethan criticizing him. So now it's time to get into the philosophy of this ad boycott, because I am generally against ad boycotts, and I'm even generally against this one, despite the fact that I think if there is an ad boycott, it is technically the most deserved one ever. Dan's philosophy with his crusade was that Twitch was never going to listen to purely public outcry, so the only natural thing that he could do to stop the terrorist propaganda being spread on their site was to target their advertisers. Made a video on what you should do right now. Absolutely fuck Twitch for making me do this cancel culture, cuck, fuck, simp, loser shit. I didn't ask to be the Adpocalypse foot soldier henchman. Everything has been tried. They don't care. So name and shame, it's all that's left. Now, a lot of people, including me, disagreed with this strategy because we YouTubers have been down this road before with people like Matt's What It Is starting an ad boycott that affected several creators' income, and they had nothing to do with it ultimately. And we also have the example back in the day where PewDiePie made some jokes and the Wall Street Journal went after him and they caused an adpocalypse that affected every creator on the website, and collectively a lot of YouTubers lost 80% of their income. So we've been down this road before. If we're gonna play devil's advocate here though, or in this case, Dan advocate, this is a different situation than with YouTube. In the case of Matt's What It Is, Matt lied about YouTube being in on some grand conspiracy to allow child sex trafficking on their site. But in Twitch's case, there does seem to be some kind of conspiracy to suppress people from Israel from even being able to be on the site. It's literally in their fucking code. And on top of that, Dan Clancy endorses Hassan. Hassan puts terrorist propaganda on his streams. Hassan never gets banned. So it's not a situation where I really feel bad for Twitch. My only concern would be that encouraging a culture of ad boycotts can cause a lot of problems. I've already seen a number of Reddit posts about how, oh, well, they want to go after Twitch and Hassan. We should go after YouTube for their right-wing content. And encouraging this kind of culture can lead to a retaliation on the other side, where the other side feels justified in a completely unjust ad boycott against YouTube or other platforms that don't deserve it. So that would be my greatest concern, encouraging this kind of culture. And I hope that everybody can see why I feel that way. Now, I did have Dan on my stream to elaborate on this point and to make his case, and here's what he said. I feel like this criticism only applies for people who have collaborated with Hassan and support him in any way, which there are a lot of. But if you're somebody who doesn't even like interact with him, you're not a political person, you're not in that community, like you're just doing like, you know, silly like
there are innocent people that will get hurt, but it is only people that get hurt because those who have the ability to make the platform better choose to do nothing. So Pokimane and all these other people who definitely know what's going on and don't say anything because I don't really want to offend my audience, and some of them might be, you know, Palestinian advocates. Okay. What happens is that Twitch has lost 70% of its advertisers over the last week. So, I mean, you could have said something earlier. This has been going on for a while. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. The big streamers had the ability to say something, to do something about seeing an injustice, and they said, oh, I don't want to risk my bag. Well, you doing nothing risked your bag.
Now, whether or not you agree with his strategy, it is undeniable that it worked. Several massive advertisers would quickly start leaving the platform, and streamers would immediately notice a big cut in revenue. November is supposed to be one of Twitch's biggest months in terms of revenue, because it's the holiday season, and a lot of companies are advertising a lot because people buy a lot of shit during the holidays. But a lot of streamers, like the Stock Guy, reported that their ad revenue was cut by 80%, which is insane. Interestingly, once advertisers started pulling out, Twitch would make a statement about how they had lied earlier. They didn't really acknowledge that they lied, but instead they made an update to their TOS and said that you can no longer use the word Zionist in a derogatory way. As a part of our hateful conduct policy, we prohibit the use of terms that may not be harmful or abusive in isolation, but can be used as a slur or to denigrate others in certain contexts. In line with that approach, starting today, using the term Zionist to attack or demean another individual or group of people on the basis of their background or religious belief is against our rules. We recognize that Zionist and Zionism also refer to a political movement. Using the term to refer to the political movement, whether in a supportive or critical way, does not violate our hateful conduct policy. Our goal is not to stifle conversation about or criticism of an institution or ideology, but to prevent coded hate directed at individuals and groups of people. We include examples of the language we prohibit in our enforcement notes here. Despite the fact that all of this was already against the rules of Twitch on paper, I guess they felt the need to make it clear that Zionist is now a slur, instead of just banning the person responsible for it in the first place. It's very strange how Twitch wants to protect Hassan, because on one hand, I don't really like ad boycotts, but at the same time, time, Twitch is protecting this guy that's putting a lot of crazy shit on their platform, and even to this day, they refuse to get rid of him. It's really strange how they just have this attachment to this one guy. And Dan, in classic Dan fashion, would respond to this change saying essentially, too little, too late, El Bozo, Clancy step down now. Now, as this adpocalypse has been unfolding, a lot of people have taken note, right? I've covered it a decent amount on my streams over on the Tom Dark Live channel. Check it out. You're missing out if you're not. And a lot of other commentary channels have taken note, with one of them being one of Hassan's friends, Ludwig. He's a massive streamer on Twitch. At one point, I think he was the biggest streamer on Twitch, actually, in terms of sheer numbers. And obviously, he's a very successful guy. He's got the Mogul Mail channel where he does commentary videos, and he decided to cover the adpocalypse over there. Ludwig uploaded what is happening to Twitch, and he discussed why advertisers were pulling out. Except he didn't, actually. In this video, Ludwig straight up just lies. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Ludwig says that Asmongold's ban because of his rant about Palestinians was the domino that started this boycott to begin with. But he doesn't even mention Hassan or Twitch banning users from Israel. He won't even mention it whatsoever. Like, it's impressive how he manages to cover this entire situation and make it seem legit to an outsider who has no other context, who might not know what's going on.
But first, we have to talk about why they pulled out. Where did the advertisers go? Do they hate Twitch all of a sudden? Well, the genesis of this, as far as I can tell, is when Asmon got banned off of Twitch.
The Hassan glazing was so bad that even the top comments are all calling him out for this, and they're like, look, if you're going to cover a situation with your friends, you need to at least tell the truth. Lud, you're better off not covering a topic if you have to tiptoe around so much stuff to avoid offending friends. Lud, buddy, if you were so against mentioning Hassan, why even make this video, man? He's literally at the center of the story. There's zero way to talk about it in good faith without covering his involvement. And yeah, they are right. The amount of covering that Ludwig does in this video perfectly illustrates how much power Hassan has in the Twitch community. Even a massive streamer like Ludwig is terrified to remotely say anything negative about Daddy, about Zaddy. Twitch is very much like a high school in that regard. It's basically a popularity contest, and if you aren't in with the cool kids, you're basically fucked. Hassan, in this instance, is what the fellas call the group leader, or Sigma, and nobody will ever call out the group leader, ever. Ludwig, if you're watching this, I feel like in the future, the best strategy would be, if you're gonna make a video about situations that involve your friends, you have to actually tell the story accurately, even if you want to defend them for their decisions. If you don't want to cover the story accurately, you just don't have to talk about it. If Hassan is your friend and you have a personal connection and you don't want to shit on him, fair enough, I get it. But you can't cover the story and misrepresent what's happening. That kind of betrays the 4 pillars of journalism, I would say. Now, Ethan Klein would also make his own video calling out Ludwig about how much he was glazing, and Ethan has been increasingly frustrated, seemingly, with how it seems like top streamers don't care about what's going on Twitch.
Okay, you ban Asmon for saying this thing about Palestinian people, but, you know, what about this person saying this thing about this people? And that...
What? This person saying this about these people? Did you just yada, yada, yada the whole anti-Semitism thing to protect your friend Hassan? How about having a Houthi militant on Twitch mainstream to talk about One Piece and to glaze up his fucking little Houthi cock?
The glazing would not stop there, though. After a few hours, people began to notice a part of Ludwig's video was mysteriously missing. Further investigation into the Wayback Machine revealed that Ludwig had actually cut out the one part of his video where he mentioned Hassan. He wasn't even talking about Hassan in a negative light. He wasn't even shitting on him. He was just saying that objectively, Mizkif slightly, very, very slightly called out Hassan, and he removed that.
Right, so there's currently in Twitch world a piss match, right? Hassan is blaming Asmongold for the adpocalypse for teaming up with people who he says started it. Mizkif is blaming Hassan, saying that everyone who does politics should be outright banned. And Asmon is
looking at me and blaming me. I want to say you're welcome.
Taking blame himself and probably talking about DEI again for the 100th time, if I had to guess.
This is one of the most insane sweeps I've ever seen in my entire life.
There's currently in Twitch world a piss match, right? Hassan is blaming Asmongold for the adpocalypse for teaming up with people who he says, and Asmon is
looking at me and blaming me. I want to say you're welcome.
Taking blame himself. And probably talking about DEI again for the 100th time.
Like, this video was barely even critical of Hassan at all. The entire thing he's saying is that he thinks all political streamers should be banned, and then when asked if that included Hassan, he said yes.
I personally just wish politics were permanently banned off Twitch. I really do. I think a lot of stress and a lot of problems would be gone if they're just like, hey, you want to be political? Get off the website. You want to be a political boy? Go to Twitter. Don't do it here anymore. I swear. I think all political streamers should be banned. If you're really political, then get off. Because if we can't handle it with the ad, if it's going to affect ad revenue for everybody, it's going to ruin the website. You might as well do it anyway. You have to. You have to. Hassan gets banned. If it affects every content creator losing ad revenue, which also might affect the entirety of Twitch, Hassan should get banned. Absolutely.
Now, this was probably a joke on Miskiff's part, but regardless of that, like, why take it out? Why? The one time you mention Hassan in this entire thing, you take it out? Really? But if you want to play a little bit of conspiracy speculation, maybe the reason why he refused to call out Twitch is because he recently insinuated that he could be moving back to Twitch from YouTube, so, you know, that could explain some of it. Now, another big streamer, Pirate Software, would tweet out a big wall of text that I'm not going to read out in full, but essentially what he's saying is actually there is no adpocalypse and your content is just not fresh enough to really make money, or alternatively the revenue doesn't appear for a certain amount of days, which in fairness he could be slightly correct about some of these things because, you know, he is a Twitch streamer. People do tend to overcorrect when an ad boycott happens and blame everything on the ads pulling out instead of their content, but I think that no matter what, it is undeniable that despite whatever he's bringing up here, there is objectively an adpocalypse going on. Like, you can just Google it. It is happening. Major companies have pulled out. This is not a subjective thing. This is not like an up in the air thing. This is happening. Dan would reply to this tweet chain saying, "You seem pretty confident. You blocked my streaming Twitter, so here you go. $1,000 bet to any charity you want. I can prove to DigiDay staff that 10 plus Fortune 500 advertisers and agencies have pulled out and normal streamers' revenues have been hurt." And that's maybe the saddest thing, that a lot of normal streamers are being affected by this who aren't even involved in Hassan. They're just trying to, you know, make their own content, go their own way, like the stocks guy, and they're being punished for this behavior. And ultimately, Twitch refuses to fix the situation, unfortunately. And while I'm not in favor of ad boycotts, and even this one I'm kind of like iffy on, because once again, you know, slippery slope incursion of culture, I don't really like that. At the same time, Twitch refuses to do anything about the biggest guy on their platform. Like, I hate the word platforming, but he literally had a terrorist on his stream. What else can I say? Now, Dan then links an article talking about all the advertisers pulling out, and a few hours later, Pirate Software would make an update tweet not acknowledging the bet that Dan had made, but he did slightly concede on his point. Talked to Devin Nash on stream about the entire thing, and we found an interesting middle ground. As content creators, we cannot see any damage being done yet as per the data I presented above. As someone who works directly with advertisers, at Devin Nash can see there's a high chance of damage going forward based on current trends. Both things are true. Always diversify your content. Now, most recently, Dan, not Dan Clancy, but Dan Saltman, the rabbi, has been banned on Twitch, which makes sense. I mean, he did literally start the crusade against them, but it's still funny to see this megacorp ban him, is just like out of spite in a childish way, like, screw you, man. Hassan also recently made an official top 10 list, guys. This is huge. He finally made it. All right, I'm proud of him. I've been watching him for a long time, so let's see what it is. Oh, shockingly, he didn't make the top 10 people that have visited an alleged sex trafficking brothel that was raided by police. I guess that case is still in ongoing litigation, so his top 10 award for that is currently pending, weirdly. No, this year, in our great year of 2024, Hassan has finally made it on the top 10 anti-Semite of the year finalists. Yippee! Hooray! All right, hopefully next year I can make it. I knew you could do it, though. I know you could do it. You're putting up those numbers, big guy. Jay's up. Jay's up. Now, in my previous video about Hassan, I said that at the end of the day, the fact that someone like Hassan, who openly sympathizes with terrorists and violates multiple Twitch rules, can continue to stream without being banned shows that Twitch won't take action against him unless there's a significant public backlash. And even then, the bias is so blatant that it seems Twitch doesn't even care that everyone notices. When Asmongold was banned, and to be clear, I understand why he was banned, the issue with it is Twitch was inconsistent. I don't want Hassan or Asmongold to be banned. I think you should be able to say the wild shit that you want, but if Twitch wants to play by a certain group of rules, then let's play ball. They should have banned Hassan multiple times at this point. And somehow, even after this entire nuclear adpocalypse that could literally sink Twitch as we know it, this is still not enough for them to get rid of him. Even today, articles are still being written detailing everything Hassan has done. Fox News has picked up on it. Like, it's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. If this isn't the most blatant proof that Twitch is compromised from the top down, I don't know what is. At this point, Hassan could literally stream himself running over people on the street, and I don't think Twitch would ban him. So unless Dan Clancy gets fired or Twitch gets a complete corporate restructuring from the inside, Hassan will remain unbanned, and he will continue to be the reason that Twitch's adpocalypse is still going on.
Hey, I found this streamer the other day streaming some sort of propaganda. I reported him, but nothing was done about it so far. Love the music, by the way.
Thank you, Ria Kwan. Thanks for reporting. Not sure who it was, but thanks a lot. All right, how about...
Appreciate it, and please bring this to Twitch support.
Airy Summer, yeah. I've reached out several times, but just seems to have zero response. I even checked in the Houthis are U.S. designated terrorist group, but maybe they have a lot on their plate, I don't know.
Bye.